Hello there. I'm going to be asking Jim a lot of questions today to see if he can answer them. For instance, is it true that the rabbit is the champion hopper in the animal kingdom? And second, can this eel move forward when he's on a glass tabletop? And third, how does a sea lion and a boat compare one with the other? Would you like to know the answers to these questions? And if so, stay with us because they all have to do with animal locomotion. And that's our story today on Zoo Parade. One of the main differences between animals and plants is the fact that animals have some form of locomotion. Of course, this type of locomotion in animals is considerably varied. There are walkers, and there are those that hop, and there are those that crawl, and there are those that paddle in the water. And so today we're going to start with those swimming animals, and one of man's greatest inventions. This invention will demonstrate how various animals are able to swim. How about it, Jim? All ready to explain that?
Sure, all set. The invention Marlin was talking about is the boat. And this boat that I have here represents and demonstrates a basic principle that all animals use in swimming. You see, with my oars, when I push backward against the water, the boat is thrust forward, like that. And in one way or another, all animals use this same principle. They push backward against the water to move forward. Now, in this case, I put the oars up in the front oarlock there, and this would represent an animal who swims by using his front legs, like Baby the sea lion. Right, Marlon?
Sure, Jim. When Baby swims, she swims with her front flippers here. But she gets forced against the water, and her back flippers are just sort of like rudders. Now, we don't have a tank in here big enough for Baby to swim in, so let's take a look at another sea lion swimming in a large outdoor pool. You can see she has flipper action here. The rotation of that flipper is such that it pushes her forward in the water. This is because she gets backward thrust from this flipper. And you see her tail flippers are just sort of dragging aside there behind her, and they are rudders to act against, to make it possible for her to turn. And so they are examples of animals that use their front feet or their modified feet in the form of flippers in order to propel themselves in the water. But you know, there are all kinds of ways of animals swimming, and Jim has demonstrated one there with the front oars. Put the oars in the back end of the boat now, Jim, and let's see what happens from there.
Right here.
Mm-hmm. Now, what kind of an animal would that represent?
Well, I think, Marlon, that would represent any of the animals that use their back feet for that backward thrust to move forward.
Uh-huh. You
Like,
name any?
yeah, I think so. The muskrat, the nutria, the otter, beaver.
Well, I think that's, you've got it pretty much on the ball there. We've got a nutria over here. And come on over here, Jim, and I'll show you some of the action of a nutria swimming.
All right.
Here's a young one, a little baby that's only about 3 weeks old. This is a South American member of the muskrat family. Let's put him in here and get a swimming action. This way, please. No, come on. Come on, you're not going anyplace.
Swim, don't just sit around and
Come
look.
on, come on, that's it.
Oh, yeah, he really pushes with his back
Yeah, you
feet.
see, the real thrust here, she uses her front feet a little bit, but the real thrust is with the back feet that are partially webbed. And so this is a fine example of one of these animals that has the power of propulsion in water from the back feet alone. But let's go back to our boat again now, Jim.
Okay.
And let's put all 4 oars in.
I got 2 here. You got
I'll
2 there?
help you, yeah.
All right.
There's my 2 in. Now let's make the old boat go here, huh? What does that remind you of?
It looks like a couple of guys that are running a boat in the park on Sunday afternoon.
I mean, what animal does this represent?
Well, the 4-footed action that is used in dog paddling.
That's right. Here is an example of a dog paddler type animal is in a possum. You remember old Happy here, don't you?
I sure do. He's a great character.
All right, Happy, would you like to show us something about... Let go of my wristwatch. Here, now you want to get in the water? Let's see how you can swim. Are you walking on the bottom?
Gee. I knew it would.
Okay, turn around and go back this way. But you see, the action of the swimming action here is just an extension of an animal that uses a four-footed gait, walking.
Actually, it's the same sort of thing, except you walk in the water, not on the bottom.
That's right, only in this case, your legs are too long for the water, huh? Well, that's what happens when you get a four-footed action. It's very similar to that dog paddle type thing. Ooh, my, you're all wet. Let's put her back here where the claws are, and she can dry out.
Okay.
But there's another type of animal swimming action, Jim. That's called sculling.
Oh, I know what that is. That's when you have just one big oar, and it's in the back of the boat, like the gondolier's vise, like that, right?
Yeah. And the animal that uses that to great advantage, the same type of action, is an alligator.
Oh, yeah, and his tail is his paddle, huh?
Let me put an alligator in the water and see if we can see something about that action. Okay, you're looking. You're not supposed to look. You're supposed to swim. There, you see, it folds his feet up and swim that way. He folds his feet up and uses just the tail action.
Really fine movement is used there, isn't it?
And that is the sculling action of an animal that spends a part of his time in the water and part of the time on the land. There's a greater sculling action for animals that live in the water full time, like the fish.
Oh.
And that is represented here by a goldfish. And here is a goldfish in a case. You better move a little bit. That's it. We have this goldfish in a tank here with a glass bottom, glass top table, and a mirror down below, so that you can look from underneath and see the sculling action of this fish.
This uses their tail fin. Why didn't you use the rest of the fin?
Well, those fins are used for balance and to back up. When she wants to back up, of course, here she just turns and goes back. But this is a classic example of an animal that is using the sculling action of the tail here in order to move in the water. She gets a good thrust forward by this type of sculling action. Want to turn? Go back that way? There. See, that's a real strong thing.
Can she back up?
Yeah. You see, just turns the fin.
That's the way she guides, though, by the...
Guides, and there's a balance maintained by these pelvic fins here. And all the fins, actually, the pelvic fins and the pectoral fins, too. But, Jim, we talked about several different types of swimming action now, but there's still another one that involves the body, the whole body.
Oh, that must be the streamlined swimmers, huh?
Well, and the elongated ones, the long, slender things, like eels. Now, here is a Congo eel, and if I can, he's pretty slippery and slimy. If I can get him up in the tank there without losing him, I think we can see this undulation. There we go. Here, let me get him started down the other way. There is an action here of the animal where a wave of action is started at the neck and the head here, and now there you see it. See it going?
It actually does undulate, doesn't it?
There is, yeah. And this is caused by a constriction of the muscles on one side of the body and a relaxing of the muscles on the opposite side of the body so that he can bend his body. If he couldn't bend his body, he couldn't undulate. I think I can show you that by another device here, a spring. If I take a spring on the tabletop here and I do this, see, there's your undulation. But if we slow that down and I constrict one side, there's a bulge formed there. Then if I constrict the alternate side, then the opposite side from my left hand here forms another bulge. And then this goes back and forth in this fashion constantly, and that starts this wave of action that is an undulatory action.
Well, actually, Marlin, in the water, he's pushing back against the water, isn't he?
Sure, and if he didn't have any water to push against, something that would give him that purchase, then he wouldn't be able to move. Here, let me see if I can demonstrate that. No, he's pretty slippery. Whoops, hold it. There you go. Now on the glass tabletop here, you see he's undulating, but he's not going anywhere, you see. Just about lost him. But here I want to put some little suction cups right on here. And once I put the suction cups on, then he has something to push against, you see.
Oh, yeah.
And once he gets something to push against, why, then he can, of course, move right across the tabletop.
Just like that with
Here,
the
you want
water.
to try it again? Well, he needs some strong thing there, something that will not give. The water has enough resistance to his movements there in order to...
He can really go when he's got that to push against, all right, can't he? Marlon, why did you start by talking about the animals' locomotion in the water?
Well, the reason for that, Jim, is because all animal life started in the water. And then after millions and millions of years, some of the animals left the water and came out on the land. And when they did that, as you would expect, they had to make some alterations in their bodies in order to walk or move about on the land.
What was the first animal to come out of the water and live on the land?
Well, I don't think anybody knows for sure, but there's a fish that comes out of the water and can walk on the mud flats. This is the mud skipper from Borneo. And he is an example of an animal